Hello, my amazing students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. Today we're doing lesson 87 in your Saxon Blue books. And we're talking about rate problems as ratio problems. So a rate is a ratio of two quantities. And remember, a ratio can be written as a fraction, or it could be written as 1 to 2 or 1:2. We have a lot of ways to write ratios, don't we? But let's suppose we want 7 apples for $2. That is a rate. We can purchase 7 apples for $2. Now, the way we are going to set the problem up depends on whether we want apples in our answer or dollars in our answer. Suppose that, so we could write our ratio as 7 apples over $2 or $2 over 7 apples. Both of them are correct. So what we're going to do is figure out which one do we use. Wait, do you see my cat over there? Here he is. Okay, so here we say we want to know apples. How many apples for $10? Well, if we want apples out of the problem, we're going to have apples on the top of the ratio. So put apples on the top. 7 apples for $2. And then we're looking for how many apples can we get for $10. So we multiply by $10. Now, what is going to happen? Our 10 and our 2 are going to cancel with a 5. And we're going to get 7 times 5, or 35 apples. Notice that the dollars and the dollars are going to cancel. And we're left with apples. 35 apples would be the answer. And we found out how many apples for $10. Or perhaps we want to know the cost of 10 apples. If we want the cost is in dollars. So we want dollars upstairs. So we're going to put dollars on top. $2, 7 apples. $2 for 7 apples. So now we want to find out how much does 10 apples cost. So we put 10 apples, we multiply, and notice now, apples and apples are going to cancel. And the 10 and the 7 don't really cancel very nicely, do they? But we're going to go ahead and multiply. 2 times 10 is $20. Okay, so $20 divided by 7, because the apples canceled, we know our answer is in dollars. So 20 divided by 7. That's going to go how many times? Well, we know 20 divided by 7 goes 2 whole times. And we're going to have 6 left over because 2 times 7 is 14. 20 minus 14 is 6. 2 and 6/7 of a dollar. Okay, which we probably would want that as money. So we would turn the 6/7 into a decimal instead of a fraction, and we would have our answer. The key is, what do we want out determines what we're going to put on top. Now we're going to talk about one more way that we can think about ratios. So the other way is, what if we worked it as a proportion? Suppose we start with apples to dollars is apples to dollars. Now we know in our problem that we had 7 apples for $2 was our ratio. Okay, and then the first time we did it, we wanted to find out how many apples we could get for $10. So then I'm going to make this my blank. How many apples for $10? Okay, so this is my question here. We'll just make this the question. How many apples? We could call it X or N or capital A, but we have 7 apples for $2 is equal to something over $10. Well, this one's pretty easy to work out. Remember, when you have fractions that are in a proportion like this, we could say, well, I've got $2 here. I want $10. $2 times 5 is $10. That means 7 apples times 5 would be 35 apples. That would be one way that we could do it. And that was the correct answer, wasn't it? Or we could cross multiply. We could say, well, let's go ahead. Now that we have apples, dollars, then we can ignore our units. So we can ignore our units. And we can cross multiply. 7 times 10 is 70 equals 2 times n. Okay, so now n is the number of apples. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I'm going to get n is 70 divided by 2, which is 35 apples. And I get 35 apples again. Okay, so the nice thing about doing it ratio is we can do the same problem without changing the ratio much at all here. So let's suppose we wanted to do the other problem. And we had 7 apples for $2. But this time we want to know how much will it take to buy 10 apples. And then we're looking for this number down here, the number of dollars, to be our question mark. So we could make this be D for dollars, but we're going to take everything else out. Once we line them up like that, we don't have to keep those there. So how many dollars? So 7 times D would be 7D is 10 times 2. 10 times 2 is 20. So we would get the number of dollars is 20 over 7, which was what we just did on the last board right before we came to this one. So 20 divided by 7 was 2 6/7 dollars, right? 2 6/7 dollars. So we'll just say dollars. So those are 2 ways that you can work the problem. So both methods are very good. The method that we just used here has the problem that we don't really use the units anymore. We erase the units, but it is very easy to do. When we keep the units, that's going to be the kind of method that you use as you go up in math, because the problems get a little bit more complicated, and having those units there will help you. So for right now, practice both ways of doing it. Okay, so now let's do a practice problem. We're supposed to do, if 14 bags could be filled in 3 hours, how many hours would it take filling 84 bags? Well, we've got 14 bags is 3 hours, or 3 hours for 14 bags. Either one of them is a valid ratio, but what we want for our question is how many hours. Since we want to know how many hours coming out of the problem, we want hours to be on top going into the problem. So what we're going to do is take 3 hours for 14 bags. We're going to multiply by 84 bags. And that's going to give us our answer. So let's see how that's done. So now we're going to put hours on the top because we want hours out. We want to know how many hours is it going to take to fill 84 bags. So we want to have our our hours on top, because hours is going out of the problem. So 3 hours for every 14 bags. We want to know about 84 bags. So we're going to multiply by 84 bags. Now notice that the problem even tells you if you're doing it correctly. The answer that's going to wind up out is going to be hours, because hours is on top. But also bags is going to cancel bags, leaving only hours left. So I know I have set it up correctly. So now 84 and 14 are both divisible by 7. Okay, and so actually divisible, I think, by 14. But let's check. If I divide this by 7, I get a 2. If I divide this by 7, I'm going to get a 12. 12 times 7 is 84. So now, yes, there was a 14 in both because this can go on down to 1 and 6. So now I have 6 times 3, or 18 hours, is how long it's going to take me to fill 84 bags. Now, the other way that I could do it is use my ratio. Bags to hours is bags to hours. Okay, now, it doesn't matter this way which one I put on top because I'm going to cross multiply. And in this method, I don't really keep my units hanging around like I do on the other one. But we're going to put our given ratio here, which is 14 bags to 3 hours. That's the ratio they gave me. And then over here, since I'm looking for how long will it take to fill 84 bags, right here, I'm going to put my 84. So basically, I lost all my units, but my unknown number of hours is right there. So now I can just cross multiply and get 14 times H is 84 times 3. Okay, so now I'm going to divide by 14 on this side, divide by 14 on this side. So we have already decided that 6 times 14 is 84. So we can cancel this with a 6. 6 times 3 is 18. This is gone. Hours equals 18. And we get the same answer both ways. So here is your practice problem. I'll read it to you. It says, Jimmy could cap 60 bottles in 7 hours. How long would it take to cap 420 bottles? Okay, so work once using rates and then work the problem again using proportions. So we have to do it both ways. So now I know that he can cap 60 bottles in 7 hours. Or 7 hours will be needed for 60 bottles. But I have to look at the question before I know which one of these two rates I'm going to use. It says, how many hours? So we want hours on top. So we're going to use this ratio. And we're going to multiply by 420 bottles. So since we've decided which one we're going to use, we're going to erase this one. Okay, so we're going to have 7 hours over 60 bottles. And then we're going to use the 420 bottles and multiply by that. Okay, so times 420 bottles. If I want to, I can put over 1. And now my bottles is going to cancel my bottles and leave the only unit that's left is hours, which is what the question was. The question was how many hours to cap 420 bottles. So hours is the only thing left and it's on top, so I know that I'm doing it correctly. So now I'm going to cancel 60 and 420, and 42 divided by 6 is 7. The zeros are going to cancel. So now I have 7 hours times 7, or 49 hours to cap 420 bottles. Okay, now the other way that we can do this is to use our proportions. So our proportions, we could say hours, bottles, hours, bottles. Okay, so we already have our given ratio, 7 hours to 60 bottles. So instead of hours, I'll put 7. Instead of bottles, I'll put 60. I'm looking for how many hours. So hours is going to be my variable. And then the number of bottles that I'm going to cap is 420. So I can set up a ratio here. Okay, so we know our answer was 49 hours on the first one. So we're going to erase this to give us a little bit of room. And then we're going to cross multiply. And we're going to get 7 times 420 is equal to 60H. Now, if I divide by 60 on this side and divide by 60 on this side, I get H equals. Okay, so now let's see what's going to cancel here. My zeros will cancel, right? Can you see that? And then my 42 and my 6 will cancel with a 7. 7 times 7 is 49. 49 hours is what I got the second time. I worked it once with the ratio method, and I worked it once with the proportion method. So you want to work both ways, and you want to master both of them. And hopefully this makes it a little bit easier for you. This is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.